we're going to just prod people into, what they don't, into this existence of not really having any opportunities or autonomy. They're just kind of drip fed things that the system knows that they want to feed them, essentially. And they're not really autonomous human beings anymore. They're cattle or sheep or whatever. So I can quite easily see us slip into the situation where very few people control the minds of the masses. And that is a scary concept, but you're just psychologically hijacking them, right? So that those people can keep on being in the positions of power, whether it's money or government or whatever it is, whatever the structures that represents.
My guest is the podcaster Ben Byford, host of the Machine Ethics podcast, for which I was a guest. And also he runs the consultancy firm Ethical by Design, where he is the artificial intelligence consultant, and he makes games with his company Nuclear Candy Games. Ben has taught data science, design and coding with Cambridge Spark, Decoded and Ada College. He's worked on web, games, machine learning and app projects, and even run his own co-working space. He has been an avid campaigner for AI ethics well before it became a fashionable topic in the current AI hype cycle. In fact, he's been doing it since 2016 through his podcast and beyond.
I'm hoping the large players hit a plateau really soon. On a technical level, I feel like it feels like diminishing returns with just more data, more compute. It, again, like intuitively, it feels like there must be a cul-de-sac at some point. And then we'll have to think about the next thing. And I'm hoping when we think about the next thing, we think about actually what do we want, and do we want these massive computer farms taking all the electricity that we produced? I think we need to legislate people away from that way of thinking where, like you pointed out, we could change the way corporations are set up in the first place to help. We could also smack down corporations when they're doing stupid things. We could do more for privacy. We could do more for transparency, so telling people when certain things are being used and have some sort of recourse for that. There's all this stuff which I think is good. And lots of people will say, but it's anti-innovation. No, there's loads of space for innovation. You're just not thinking about the innovation outside of it makes tons of money really quickly.
Yep.
And that's the problem. This is, to me, all about ethics, right? So the idea for ethics is that we are designing the future, right? So we're deciding what is good and bad behavior as a society, right?
Yeah.
And that's what ethics is all about. It's about people doing stuff together for outcomes, right? So if you think about ethics, you're not thinking about a single individual in a vacuum, making decisions. You're not. That's not what it's about. It's about...
This is a CEO Retort podcast, the show that fearlessly goes after the difficult topics that we all need to talk about, campaigns for issues that we're all concerned about, and invites some amazing, inspiring, and remarkable guests who will help us navigate through this fragile world that we all care about. I'm Tim Al-Sheikh. Let's get after it.
You are listening to CEO Retort.
So I've been running the Machine Ethics podcast, so machine-ethics.net. You can find it there, Spotify and iTunes and all that sort of thing. Since 2016, although I was speaking about AI ethics a little bit in 2015. So as I'm sure you'll ask or whatever, I was kind of captivated by some of this stuff, some of the ideas around AI and ethics. And I basically started the podcast because I wanted to consume the information from much more intelligent people than me who were doing stuff. I was like, I can talk to these people, and a podcast is a really good way of getting in with those people, being able to talk to them and being able to absorb like a big sponge some of that information and pick some things out and hopefully learn some stuff. So the podcast is a bit of a journey. So, hopefully it's useful for other people as well to come on that journey with me to learn about some of the AI stuff as it's been developed, and also the kind of ethical implications of the technology over the years. And obviously a lot has changed since 2016. So there's a plethora of different kind of topics on there. So I try to title them so that you can kind of pick and choose. I would suggest it's not one of those podcasts that you should just start at the beginning. I think you could start at the end and then, maybe pick and choose some things as you go.
Well, I think with AI, there is no beginning or end. It's like it's been going on, well, for 70 years. And
Yeah.
I always sort of remind people that, in fact, AI has been part of our lives for at least 20 years. I mean, from my personal experience, like my first ever startup, that was like in 2004, we used AI-powered recommendation systems.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like an invention. It was something that, was available. The idea was there. We just thought, okay, well, how could we tweak it in a way that makes sense for the ad network that we're building, which is basically for the biotech sector. So we had to use different profiling and that sort of thing. So it's not new. And I think the thing that frustrates me about like the way AI is being reported now, that it's they kind of pretend that it's new, that everything that we're seeing today, oh, it's all new, but it's not. I mean, even OpenAI has been around for 10 years now. I mean, and that's the startup.
Yeah.
So I feel there's a bit of I think certainly I'm seeing a lot of confusion about, is this new? So like even people didn't realize that AI was part of their iPhone. Of course, we're going to be talking about that after Apple's announcement, that they thought, oh, this is all new AI. It's like, dudes, do you realize that AI has been in your phone for a very long time? All the photo filtering that you're doing and all of these tools that you have in your phone, it's all AI, guys. But the fact that they're not interacting with it directly, it does not mean that it's not there. It's been there.
Yeah.
So I think that's
Is it just because I think I was looking at your kind of takedown your discussion about the Apple announcement, and it's always just a branding spin. It's like we're not using AI, we're using Apple Intelligence. It's like
but that's clever. Man. That's clever though. I mean, AI, Apple Intelligence. See, you got to give them that. That's pretty clever.
I know, but it's just funny that that's always the case with them. It's like, oh, everyone else is saying this, we're going to call it this other thing, just be different, even though all these different techniques we're using and they're all kind of similar. So
from the ethical perspective, because I made a point in my video that I think they're doing the right things. I mean, obviously, they're still a corporation. They still have shareholders that have to please and so on. But compare their announcement to the ones that we've seen from Google, Microsoft, and OpenAI. Like I said in the video, that you could not just have a break from the term AI. Like it was every second AI. But But Apple, obviously, they decided to completely move in the opposite direction. It was all about personalization, about privacy and stuff, which is important, absolutely. But there's definitely a PR spin there. There's a lot of questions to be answered. But the other thing as well that I've been calling out the other companies is the fact that there's this aggressive data grab. And I even predicting that I think we're going to go through yet another big data hype, like a big data 2.0. But Apple, again, they seem to be, and again, we have to test it to sort of confirm that. But from what they've announced, it seems that they're actually doubling down on privacy. And the idea is that everything has to stay on your device. The AI is pretty much edge AI, effectively. Although I'm not sure how that would work with ChatGPT, but I mean, that's probably another discussion. But I think what do you think, from the messaging perspective? I mean, are they saying the right thing from your point of view? And do you believe them?
Yeah, I mean, they obviously often say the right things, right? So they're often not making these ridiculous blunders that Google and other people often do, where they are phoning up a restaurant and freaking people out. Like it seems like
or search for your glasses.
Yeah, exactly. Just like there's all these the kind of privacy things, or like things that involve like tricking people almost, that Apple don't generally do. So I think, from that point of view, I think they're always kind of conservative in how they actually approach this stuff, and they always come late to the game. But they also like try and change the game in a way that suits them. I think as many people pointed out before, I think their business model is not around, or hasn't historically been around, sucking up data, unlike Google's, and has, they've got this functional bit which is hardware, and they sell hardware and they sell some software, and they don't have to, they have data. And I wonder if this move will actually make them more into a data company than they've ever been. And that worries me, actually, that they're making this move because of pressure in the market. And what I've seen is that they're focusing more on the things that are achievable with AI, like you can make these imagery, or you can tell Siri's got superpowers now, that sort of thing, which is
I'll believe
cool.
it when I see it. I'll believe it when
Yeah, exactly. TBC. But yeah, so that's all cool, and I like that. But again, it just changes their business model a little bit, because in order to make those things work, they're either having to go out to other people, right, like OpenAI, and use their products, or they are presumably sucking up data, and that changes the game and makes them more problematic to me. But again, you can do all these things in a good way and a bad way. So I'm just hoping that they are cognizant of how they're dealing with this data problem. If that makes sense.
I think to me, I think they seem to be doing something similar to Microsoft rather than Google, because Google's business model has always been ads. So Google and Meta, for them, they suck up as much data as possible because it's all about selling ads and stuff like that. Microsoft haven't been doing that until probably Bing. I'm not sure how much revenue they're generating from Bing that makes them, that I don't think they're as reliant on ads as Google. But Microsoft, because they have access to enterprise data over many decades now, so they've got a lot of data. So the fact that they're not kind of in your face like Google and Meta, it does not mean that they don't have data on you. They've got a lot of data. So does Apple.
Definitely.
So does Apple. So I think that's why I was a bit surprised when I didn't, again, I called this out on our channel, that when they announced recall. I was like, I saw the first clip, in fact, from Satya Nadella, the CEO, and he was like, recall, it's this feature that records everything that you do on your laptop. And I'm like, what do you mean record everything that you do? And then it turns out that it takes screenshots of every single thing that you do on your laptop. And it takes it every minute or something ridiculous like that, or even every second. I can't remember, but it was like, it's quite regular. And to me, I'm thinking, again, from the point of view of AI, firstly, why on earth do you need to do that? I can understand, you do need some AI in terms of, and even Apple said that quite correctly, that, when you're interacting with a document or you're interacting with a particular app, the data that is required in relation to that particular app, that needs to be recorded. And for any reason, like if you've been interrupted for any reason, you can come back to it. And that makes sense. But you don't need to record everything. Like your emails, literally, if I have a conversation like this, it would record that. I mean, why do I need it to record everything? That's pretty creepy, actually, and it's weird and makes zero sense from the point of view of AI training and, frankly, anything. And it's very unlike Microsoft. That's why I was a bit surprised. I was like, what are you guys playing at?
Yeah. So, I mean, I made a prediction about this, as everyone often does, about these various things. Probably about 2 years ago, where generative images was like exploding, right? We had version 4 or 5 of Midjourney or something like that. And, they were getting good, right? They're getting really good, these image stuff. And I was getting to the point where I was like, cool, we can make some cool looking images. And at some point, it feels like this will be translated into, okay, we don't actually type on computers anymore, right? Or I think your point with within that Apple video, it's just because I just watched it. Sorry, everyone. But within that Apple discussion was that,
thank you. Yeah, keep on watching. Everybody,
exactly.
Watching it, please. Thanks.
You go refer to that. One of your points was that you don't want to be doing prompt engineering. Like, prompt engineering is a silly thing, and we shouldn't be doing it. Obviously, it's more nuanced what you said, but my point with the generative stuff is that you shouldn't be interacting with the computer in the way that you do at the moment, moving a cursor around, typing stuff, right? That feels like the manual operation, where we have automatic mode now, basically. So you get into, I'm making an analogy, bear with me. You get into a car, you have an automatic gearbox, and it's basically like a big go-kart. You can just go. And if you want to go in a manual car, that's cool. But you're going to have to do a bit more work and learn how it works. And I feel like we're going to eventually move to this world where we operate in that way. So our computers are much more automatic, and you ask things of the computer, and you can ask them like directly, in voice. We're getting to that point. And I think the generative stuff will need a lot of data. And what is silly to me about that is that computers are all data. It's like, can't you just not? It's like we're doing it wrong if you're taking screenshots, basically, because how a computer works is like in data, right? So I think that's ridiculous, but it's a road towards, we have data about how people use their machines, and now we can understand what it means to open up Photoshop and do these things because we've got the data for that. You know what I mean? So I'm going to make a prophecy here, but like I think in a couple of years' time, we're not going to be opening apps and doing stuff in that way anymore. I think we're going to be asking the computer to do stuff, and it's going to do it for us because it understands through this process of having the data to kind of train it. I'm writing an email. It seems like an easy ask, right? But it has to understand a lot about what that is. I need to open the email application. My preferred email application might be on the web. I need to open a web browser. There's all this stuff that it has to learn. So it sounds like what you're saying about the Microsoft thing is that Microsoft is making an effort to get there. But I think they should just do it in data, not in images. In binary information, but I don't know on the computer science level how different that is. But intuitively, it seems stupid to me. Anyway.
No, I agree. I think that's the thing. I think I probably even made that point before that, if you're taking screenshots, then most likely that means that's people accessing. And because I always like to say that, the intelligence behind the AI is the people. So it's not just the AI that just learns everything, but you use people's own intelligence. Like, let's say if you're an experienced designer, you would know what designers typically would want to use, how they interact with a particular app. And you can actually train an AI model based on that experience. So you don't really need to even necessarily the data, because people talk about AI. Yeah, data is really important. But it's also the algorithms. You have to design the algorithms. You have to, it's a dual process to achieve that ultimate intelligent output. So it's not just data in and data out. It's data in, of course, but then you have to design the right algorithms to make sure that it processes the data in a way that is relevant to the user in a particular task. Let's say design, right? So So for me, taking screenshots makes zero sense unless somebody is actually going to be watching you doing the stuff that you're doing on your laptop, which I think that's the creepy side. I mean, you see, like you said, with data, if you're interacting with the apps, from what Apple announced, and actually Google have been doing this, to be fair to Google, and that's in fact part of the issues with privacy as well, that they're not taking screenshots, but they, like the way they collect your data, they pretty much understand how you're interacting with individual apps. And then they use AI, and of course they use people behind the scenes as well to actually then say, oh, okay, we're noticing like X percentage of users tend to do this rather than that. Okay, we need to train the models accordingly. Some users completely ditching that particular service. Okay, maybe you should ditch it completely or maybe figure out.
I disagree. I think that's the old world you're talking about. I think the old world was we collected data about our software that we use, and that was a known thing that most applications and software and websites did, and that's what we used to do. And now what we will be doing is we won't be looking at the data going, oh, people don't use this app anymore. They won't. It will just all be automated. It will just be streamed into the learning process, and it will change some outcome. And that is debatable about what the outcome will be, but
so you don't think people will be involved at all? Do you think that it's going to be purely AI effectively?
No, people will be involved. They just have to set up the goals, right, of the system. They'll have so much data. It'll be extremely hard to look at their data. So what do you
Oh yeah,
do?
basically
You
like
know
for
what I
people
mean?
to actually look. Yeah, no, absolutely.
So you're not setting up like time series anymore on, here are the most popular apps, here are people's usage, blah blah blah. That's cool, and that's what I'm saying. That's the old world, but the new world will be like, you know, there are these apps which are through our AI automatically becoming popular, and they are automatically being pushed in the app store or advertised to people automatically. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Because there's this usage happening, and the system's set up to deal with that. You don't, you could have a gatekeeper saying that maybe this action's okay, but I mean, it will probably happen so fast that it will be impossible for someone to do that. Um, but that's just on a purely I'm selling software point of view.
Mm.
But there's also other things you can do there. But which I think is interesting. But it's the old world is we've got loads of data and we're going to look at the data and see what it tells us. But that's not where we are anymore.
So do you then disagree that there will be a data 2.0 hype? But perhaps like the old data, big data hype was basically again, people looking at stuff. But this time it's going to be big data 2.0, but it's more AI driven.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the big data thing was all about interpreting data using machine learning or just statistics, right? And also the sale of that data. So the data itself was valuable for that reason. So there was lots of companies that were set up just to sell data or consume data or steal data,
Exactly.
to acquire data. So I guess on the back of that, we're already set up for more data, more AI techniques to use on that data. So I feel like it's just going to keep growing. But it might be that hopefully with the privacy stuff and the IP stuff, that there's an upper limit to that. And people can do more with the data they have instead of just consuming more data all the time. And by that, I mean just experimenting with different models and different ways of working, and probably at the end of the day, different goals. Right? If your goal is to sell more advertising to people like Facebook and Google, like you were mentioning before, then you're going to run all this stuff to maximize that. But they don't have to maximize that. You've got all this data. That data can be used for other things. So they could maximize another different goal, which might not be advertising related. So I think there's opportunities, massive opportunities still there. It's just that, they have to align possibly with the market, or the market has to move, or, something drastic has to happen for people to realize that they've got this gold mine, which could be used for other interesting opportunities, other instances.
Surveillance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, other things, good and bad, right?
Yeah. Which comes, I suppose, that links nicely, in fact, to ethics and, of course, your podcast, because you've had something like 88 guests already, which is pretty impressive. So I've got a long way to go to catch up with you.
Been doing it a while.
But because I've seen, because obviously I was a guest, but I've listened to quite a few of your other guests as well, and obviously my take generally seems that the side of the ethical side of AI and sort of, I suppose, digital ethics in general is definitely way more complicated than people think. So firstly, my question, I suppose, from your conversations, because one of the things that you always ask, in fact, I know you ask this for every episode. Like, how do they define AI? How does every guest defines AI?
Yeah.
And what, from their point of view, ethical AI looks like. So from all these conversations, what is sort of the most common denominator that you've seen, and what are conflicts or sort of differences that you think, or rather that surprised you, if any?
I think, it's hilarious how different people answer this question on the podcast, because you feel like, after 7 or 8 years, that you might get like this, repetition, right? But still, I get people who do wildly different things, which is why I keep asking it. I think a lot of people obviously come up with, doing things with data or and algorithms that do some action or make some decision. Like those are quite common answers. But then you get people who are talking about like the cultural aspects of what AI is and the fact that we are making AI in the first place because we wanted to automate this thing like us, like make something which was human-like in its, let's inverted commas, intelligence, right? So, so you get people talking about that, but then also you get people talking about the fallacy of AI, and that AI is always changing, and no one knows what it is, and it's just this word that you can put anything into, and general public. It is confusing for the general public because most people have different definitions, and and cultural references. So we're talking about like Terminators and all sorts of different robots and AIs that you see in media. So yeah, it's just really interesting because you get all these different answers. And yeah,
these are all AI experts as well. So we're not talking about amateurs. We're talking about some really
these
proper,
are all people who are very interested in this area, different reasons. Some of them are academics, some of them are ethicists, some of them are developers and business people, and I've had a doctor on there. Lots of writers, all sorts of people, but they're all interested in this area for various reasons and have thought about it for a long time. So yeah, it's fun.
I think is it mainly because we as humans generally, we haven't got a clear definition of intelligence? Because if you ask intelligence to different people, they'll tell you different things. I mean, from my point of view personally, I think, and actually I did say that on your podcast, I think intelligence is something that you build over time and it's based on experiences. I have people that literally, even people commenting here, like they were saying, well, actually intelligence is purely based on your education. And I'm like, well, yeah, but then what happened to people that, before the education system existed, like ancient Egyptians, they didn't have education in the way we define it today. Yeah, they built the pyramids, So it's human nature that we have this pretty phenomenal ability to work things out no matter what. It's like you stick a baby in a room or in a jungle, they'll figure stuff out somehow.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. There's a capacity thing there. Yeah,
absolutely.
Like a capability thing. I think the intelligence thing is maybe a misnomer, and I think that's what trips people up all the time. It's like artificial. I think people can get that, and they can say grok, like the idea that something is man-made and it's artificial, and we can use that quite flippantly. That term, but the intelligence bit is like, that's the bit that everyone seems to have an issue with, or diverts into these different kind of categories. So I think maybe. I can't remember if it was one of the what's his name? One of the academics with the original in the 50s when they started using this term, who actually said that it was probably a bad term and he regrets it. But yeah, I think there was this term. God, I can't remember all these terms. There's other terms that we could use, and I think for me it's weird because AI in my head is this thing that is more like a human intelligence, and you can use for all sorts of purposes, and has sort of a way to kind of progress and have memory and not experience but remember and that sort of thing. And I think that for me is what the goal of this AI thing is. I'm basically talking about like Iron Man's assistant.
Jarvis, yes.
Yeah. I mean, AI is basically Jarvis for me, right? It's not like, it doesn't have its own intentionality and consciousness, but it's incredibly capable. And I think that's what AI probably should be. But we put so many things in this bracket of AI, and AI kind of learning and academic research and stuff like this, that you can put all sorts of things that have behavior or actions autonomously into AI. Anything that does that basically is AI, which is why when I was growing up, it was like AI was a thing, but it was only a thing in games, in computer games. You'd be playing against the AI. These terms were used in games all the time. So if you had a P versus P game, like player versus player, and you didn't have another player, you're a player versus AI, right? Or compute or computer. So that was the way that I came into this through games. But all those AIs are probably this more traditional idea of if this then that sort of programming. So if you see this kind of action from the player, do this reaction, and these can get really complicated as you add more and more and more. And you can also add things like planning. So if you're at this point and you need to do this thing, you might need to go over here to then action that thing. So you have to work out how to get to that place. So there's all these things that were present in computer games, which have progressed very little in that time. So there's certain things that have changed and new algorithms. But that's very different to the whole machine learning thing, because that's kind of like pathfinding and state machines. And if then else, like more expert systems, you have data and you do data stuff to the data. Whereas machine learning is very much it's like hyper statistics, right? I think I had a better term for this, but like you take some data and you fit it to whatever thing you can using an algorithm, and it could be a straight line fit, a linear regression, and that algorithm does this until the numbers are the best, right?
Yeah,
you can like intuitively see that in your head, like that's the best line. And then you get decision trees and things get gradually more complicated, where you can't see it in your head. You can't really like fit that in to today, where I'm sorry, I'm just giving like a random plotted history.
Well, this is not supposed to be technical. We try to.
No. I tried to. Yeah. I just finish off, but like I'm trying to make it understandable. Yeah, but now we get all these little weights, right? So little numbers, and you do an action on that number. And this is what a neural network is, right? So you have some input, which we're going to convert into numbers. We're going to put it into the first part of this algorithm. And for every input, we're going to do the same thing. And we're going to do it based on whatever the weight is next. So you've got these weights, you've got this input, do the algorithm. Sometimes it's, loads of dot multiplication and then ReLU or whatever, and making some activation function. And these are all very simple operations, like really, and you just do it loads.
Yeah.
And then you take the output and you do it again, loads. And then you take the output of that and you do it again, loads. And it trickles down through all these different operations and weights. And then you look at the end and go, how well did we do? And you have to have some sort of way to evaluate that, right? And you then back propagation, or there's other things you can do, but like you then go back through the network and go, can I change things a little bit so they go in the direction of a better, fit, let's say.
Yeah.
And you do that and you change them ever so slightly. And then you do that again, the whole process again, like thousands of times. And slowly these weights change and they learn. And it's not clear necessarily what the process of learning is, or like what the analog is for us humans. It might be just the analog is our brains, but they're not the same thing. Same algorithm or substrate. So they are very different. But yeah, so like you go from this simple game stuff to this very, very large, not necessarily complicated, large data manipulation statistics thing. And all of this is AI. So, so you can see why people are confused. and there's loads of other like niche things in there as well, like cellular automata and evolutionary algorithms, which are like things that I'm really keen on because they're just like not been that extensively explored as much. A life. There's all these other things.
Yeah.
But basically, everyone's talking about like AI as these big networks, which I think is a bit reductive. But 'cause I'm interested in the other stuff.
For those of you who followed me for a while, you would know that I'm neurodivergent, meaning that my brain is kind of unpredictable. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It has its own mind, so to speak. But one of the things that I really did struggle with my entire life, including today, is focus. So I was terrible at school as a result of that. I couldn't focus at university. I can't even focus when I'm working on my desk. And the big problem for me was figuring out ways to help me do that. The strategy that worked for me my entire life was actually music. But I would spend hours, literally hours, figuring out the songs that work best for a particular mood, whether I wanted to focus on something or I wanted to relax or wanted to sleep. Whatever it is, I would have to find the right song for that. And it kind of worked, though it wasn't predictable. Like I said, I would waste a lot of time trying to figuring out until I discovered our new partners, Brain FM, who actually used real science to figure this issue out and build an app that creates functional music engineered to sync with your brain. I'm telling you guys, this is real science because they actually created a patented approach that as many of your brain cells, your neurons, are bringing all of the electrical signals to focus collectively into that one task that you're doing, or even if you want to relax or if you want to sleep. I absolutely love the interface. It's super simple. You can just choose what it is that you want to do, whether you want to focus, you want to relax, sleep, or meditate. And you can build your own list of some of the favorite songs that they produce. And I have to highlight that a lot of these songs are actually produced by real human composers. And it's lovely, lovely app that you can download onto your computer, your mobile phone, or you can just listen to it online. It's really simple. It's really cool. But above all, it works. If it works on my brain, it should work with your brain as well. So if you check out brain.fm/CEOR, and you'll see a dedicated page to our podcast, and you will get an exclusive, really, really long free demo that you can just download the app and listen at your leisure. No limitations. You can try it for yourself and see if it works. Let me know if it does work for you, because I absolutely fell in love with this thing so quickly, like within a couple of weeks. And I thought I have to reach out to these guys because also I want to support independent businesses. So check out brain.fm/CEOR, and the big thanks to Brain FM for supporting the podcast. And now, back to the episode.
But I'm also wondering, to do with the messaging as well, that creates further confusion is the idea that AI is smarter than people, which is kind of like saying, well, define smart. What does smarter mean? Because you can say a calculator is smarter than your accountant, because your accountant can't calculate numbers at such high speeds. But so I think that's the issue there, because there's one, I don't know if you saw this on LinkedIn. I don't know who the lady is, but there's this, I don't know if it was a piece of like a photo of a magazine column or something like that. And I'm paraphrasing, but she said something. I think she's an artist.
I think I saw this as well, actually.
Yeah, it's like that. I want. How did she say it? Is that I want AI that can do my laundry and my dishes, so I can spend my time doing my arts and creativity. I don't want AI to do my arts and creativity, so I can spend my time doing the laundry and the dishes. And I thought, amen, sister. I mean, this exactly historically, that was the point of AI generally. It's like, how can we get rid of all these mundane and sort of mundane tasks and jobs that we as humans, firstly, we're not good at doing in terms of the numbers. So how many laundry can we, or how much laundry can we actually deal with in a second, right, or in a minute, right? For example, like metaphorically speaking. So we tend to be pretty bad at jobs that we hate, but we're very good at the things that we love doing. But arguably, I would say humans are better at doing these things that we love doing than AI. because we've got that extra. I mean, the analogy I like to use, because obviously from my medical background, people always go on about radiologists. I will replace radiologists because it's scan, blah blah blah. Well, yes and no, because most of the time, because I've spoken to radiologists about this, and they said to me that actually the 99%, like sort of the random numbers that people tend to throw, the 99% of accuracy of AI, it's the stuff that they can actually identify pretty easily, right?
Right.
But the 1% that AI doesn't identify is where the humans come way above the AI. And the 1%, at least in healthcare, that 1% could literally mean thousands of lives, like potentially lost, right? And I think this is actually a good analogy that AI is really good at that 99% of stuff that we don't like doing. But that 1%, that critical final decision making and like even creativity, this is where we excel. And I think this is in fact where perhaps real intelligence comes in that AI can't even handle.
Yeah. So there's a lot in there. Embarrassingly, I have one answer to this, solve this whole thing, and it's probably not going to be very attractive to many of your listeners. So we'll see how we get on.
Oh, go for it. It's a debate. There's no right and wrong, right? So let's just go for it. Let's throw the punch.
Okay, so I'm going to set you up. So this is to me all about ethics, right? So the idea for ethics is that we are designing the future, right? So we're deciding what is good and bad behavior as a society, right?
Mm.
And that's what ethics is all about. It's about people doing stuff together for outcomes, right? So if you think about ethics, you're not thinking about a single individual in a vacuum, making decisions. You're not. That's not what it's about. It's about social interactions. It's about how we can cooperate, to make a future that we want to live in, all these sorts of things, and how we decide what is good and bad in that society.
Yeah.
So with that basis, we've set up our society in a certain way. And what you pointed out is that we have these really cool things, right? The radiology thing is cool. And we could decide, that ethically it would be better to spend more time on that, to get that 1% down to, 99.999%.
Yeah.
And I think, given the rate of progress, I presume that would be possible, even if it required other techniques or other ways of thinking about that problem. We could spend more time doing that, but we don't. What do we spend our time on? We spend our time on getting people to spend money on stuff, because that's how the economics of the markets work, right?
Yeah.
So we're set up to lose, or we're set up in a way where we are optimizing some things over other things. And I think that essentially this, whatever capitalist situation we're going to categorize ourselves in at the moment, neoliberal capitalism, whatever, that's the problem. Like, if you actually take that away, if you take out the market from any of the AI stuff, what you'll find, probably, if you think about it, and please let me know if I'm wrong, but you really have to think about it, is that most of this stuff goes away, and we could actually concentrate on solving the washing up and the doing our, clothes problem with AI, and not to the painting and making music problem. We don't have a problem making music. It's, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree.
But the market can sell to that, and it's easier because it's not messy. It's not in the real world. It's not, it's coming in vibrations through speakers, and it's data. It's just much easier to do with that data. And I think we could spend much more time on doing hardware, wetware stuff in the real world with AI and solving more problems. And that would be great, because, but we were stuck in this market issue. So we have to do something about that, I think. And I did a bit of work for a public org on the AI strategy stuff. And loads of this stuff just went away because we didn't have the forces of the market present. There probably is some force there, if I'm being truthful. But it wasn't as important in that whole equation. We didn't have any shareholders. The shareholders were the citizens, right? So what is best for citizens? And that's not the case in business. It's just not.
Well, I agree. I mean, well, as you know, like I was in that world, and I kind of walked away from that effectively. And
yes,
I set up my company for that very reason, because when I speak to investors, I mean, even my own investors, I mean, they're good people, so they're not evil or anything like that, right?
Yes,
but I think there's this general attitude that if you've got something to sell, just sell it, no matter what. And in our case, it was like we had a lot of user data, because it's an ad network. We had millions of users, literally. And back in the day, like sort of, we're talking about sort of pre-2010s, having millions of users, that was like, whoa, right?
Yeah.
And pretty much it was like, why don't we sell that to data brokers? And I was like, I mean, because we're dealing with a biotech and pharma, I mean, getting data like that, it's really hard, and it's all based on trust because of the sensitivity behind it. I literally refused. I said, well, you guys realize that that's my name, because these are basically some of my connections that connected me to other people. You kind of had that nice network effect. So my name is literally linked to that company, not theirs. But for them, it doesn't matter, because look, we can make shitloads of money. Let's just sell user data.
Yeah.
And I thought, no. So even today, I mean, like, well, not today, but like because like I had VCs like knocking on our doors, like, we like what you guys are doing with Nebula, blah blah blah. I mean, like, I think that was predominantly pre-pandemic, and I got quite a few of them. When I was talking to them about ethics, they're like, that's all bullshit. Bullshit? Are you serious? Ethics is bullshit. And I mean, again, if the listeners don't believe the two of us, but even, the VCs behind OpenAI and all of the major AI companies or startups right now, when the whole copyright issue started to emerge in the news, what did they say? They didn't say, you're right, we should protect copyright holders. No, they were saying, if we focus too much on copyright and copyright protection, then we end up killing these companies. I'm like, so you're literally saying it's okay for us to steal other people's work.
Yeah.
And I think that's that weird. I mean, again, it's not about me saying that they're evil, but it's just that weird, I suppose. I don't even think it's capitalism, because capitalism is about building wealth for everybody so that even people at the top can get richer. So it's not about wealth redistribution. Sort of if you're looking at the old school approach of capitalism.
Old school, yeah.
The old school approach. I mean, I think even the guy that invented it, came up with the idea, Adam Smith. I mean, his argument was that because in the feudalist society, you had this situation where it was that 1% at the top that owned everything. And obviously the peasants had nothing. And his argument was actually, if we create a market with competition where everybody at the bottom, right, generates wealth, then people at the top can generate more wealth. So it's not about wealth redistribution, but literally it's wealth for everybody. But that's not what we have right now. It's really about, look, this is what sells. Let's just sell it. But what are the consequences? It doesn't matter. So long as we make that shitloads of money. Which to me, I'm like, and I'm an entrepreneur. For me, obviously, I believe in capitalism in terms of generating wealth, but not at any cost. You see what I'm saying? It's like, I don't believe that you should make money while hurting other people's interests. Like, that's wrong,
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just, I just think it's incorrect. And I think I don't have a very good way that I can, I'm not a communist or anything like that. I don't have an answer. I wish I did.
Maybe change the law. I mean, I think because in America, in Delaware, by law, shareholders come first, not your employees, not even your customers. And I would argue it's your employees and customers that you need to keep your company alive. It's not your shareholders. Like, this infamous statistic that 99% of startups die. Yeah, they don't die because they don't have VCs. Most of them are VC funded. So they've got shitloads of money already in the bank account. They die because they don't get customers. But no, the law puts shareholders first. And I think that's a problem. I think maybe I'm naive, but maybe if we change that law, maybe if we say, well, actually, yes, you've got responsibilities, you've got fiduciary duties towards your shareholders, but you must prioritize the interest of your customers, i.e. your users, which means by default, you have to prioritize their privacy, for example, and you have to prioritize your employees, which means you can't underpay your employees and mistreat your employees. And the shareholders, of course, then they get their cash. Like, you shouldn't ignore them, but they shouldn't come first. To me, I think that's probably
yeah.
the easier solution.
Yeah.
What is going to happen, of course, that's a different story.
Yeah. Well, I think another way of stipulating the very same thing you just said is just to say that, your business doesn't work if people aren't buying things. So, you're working unless you're literally selling to automated systems, and automated systems have a bank account, you're always going to be selling to people. And, my hope is that people, as a person, you want people to be well, and this again comes down to the ethics thing. And you don't want to be enslaving, in body or in mind, people's rights or ways of thinking. And it troubles me because you could quite easily see how advertising has affected the world through social media and through the things that we consume on our phones and the amount of time we spend on our phones. And the next level after that is this nudging thing, and we've seen the problems with that with the political situation in 2016, 15, 16.
And it's going to get worse now.
And so it's just like, are we going to, it's that classic what's it called, that story, are we going to just prod people into what they don't, into this existence of not really having any opportunities or autonomy, that they're just kind of drip fed things that the system knows that they want to feed them essentially, and they're not really autonomous human beings anymore. They're cattle or sheep or whatever. So I could quite easily see us slip into the situation where very few people control the minds of the masses. And that is a scary concept, but you're just psychologically hijacking them, right? So that those people can keep on being in the positions of power, whether it's money or government or whatever it is, whatever the structures of that represents. So I think we should, I mean, you think about it, privacy is the thing, and just demanding that people make things which are useful for us. Stop making things that consume our time, and we should be making things that make our time better, or focus more on what humans do best, and that's socializing and building stuff, being inquisitive. I would say. I'm very inquisitive, and I like hanging out with people and moving my body around. All these sorts of things. I don't need to sit at a computer screen 20 hours. Not moving my body. That's probably not good for us. So I think the market needs to change, and I don't know if it's a wholesale change or if it's a legislative change, but I think people can wake up to that fact and do something about it. Which is why the whole ethics thing is really interesting to me, because it brings these things to light. It's like, we have a power here to do something about this, or we have a decision-making capacity to make decisions about the things we make and do, and that impacts the future. Yeah. And if you believe in free will, we can do these things, and we're not all going to be nihilists and don't care about things because it's all determined. But you know what I mean? That's a whole other debate, which is also cool. But
second episode
2. Metaphysics and the simulation universe and stuff. I don't know. I just wish people were more inspired to think more creatively about the situation we're in and the fact that they can change it. That is my message. That's what I want to say at every talk I go to. You do have some power. Yeah.
And well done. That's but on a serious note, in this
was
case,
that not serious?
I mean, like, apart from the applauding thing.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, where do you think then regulation would come in? Oh, do you think regulation could play a role in here? Because obviously some of us have been calling for regulations for gazillions of years and nobody cared. But now, I mean, I'm not a big fan of Rishi Sunak. But he did, that
Yeah.
infamous, bizarre, AI, what is it called? The AI security event where he interviewed Elon Musk. He actually said something in a speech. For once, he actually said something useful where
Ha.
that we made a mistake with social media, that we chose not to regulate social media and the tech sector in the early 2010s, and we've seen the consequences of that, like you just talked about. And we
Yeah.
cannot repeat that mistake again with AI, because AI will amplify the capabilities, the very capabilities of the algorithms that brought us to this situation.
Yeah.
And it will make it a hell of a lot worse by multiple thousand times. So we've got to control it right now. And I mean, I'm paraphrasing. That's not exactly what he said, but that's basically the core message of that speech, which I was like, wow, I actually agree. That makes sense. So do you think regulation could achieve that? Even though, I mean, I personally, I actually, I'll see if I try and get them to this podcast as well. But I've actually met the authors of the EU AI Act. They're not political. They don't care about politics. For them, it's really about, again, for them, it's the mission. So how can we use regulation to make sure that AI is safe, but also useful? Yeah. But unfortunately, even the people who wrote the law are under the control of politicians who do not necessarily want to push that message because of their, like our government it's anti-regulation. I mean, they voted for Brexit. They wanted a Brexit world, which is basically zero regulation. So how could you have a government like that or politicians like that talking about regulating AI if they themselves don't believe in regulation? So for me, in theory, I think, I want to see your thought, but I think regulations could actually work in this case. But is there the political will to, make sure that these regulations actually have some, take some sort of effect? I don't know.
Yeah.
But what do you think? I mean, do you think regulations could solve this issue?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, like on a practical level, I think regulation has a stick and a carrot, right? Like the government can give money for like projects, and they do this all the time through grants and investments and stuff like this. So you're using the carrot to steer like invention in a certain direction. So they could prioritize money for energy security, sewage, transport, all these sorts of things. And some of that money would probably go to the development of AI systems or technology systems that help do that stuff, right? No one's going around saying we don't want clean water and a house over our heads and power and stuff. You know what I mean? This is like basic stuff. We need better, easier, more efficient basic stuff. And that's only going to be more the case when we are facing fossil fuels, which we're not doing fast enough, and people need to get on that. But we're going to be electrifying everything, so we just need to be putting more money into better electrification and production of electricity. These things are uncontroversial. They're just things that we just need to do. And again, AI can help us do some of that stuff. We should be doing that. On the other side, the stick, right? Like fining big companies and putting down legislation that you cannot do certain things, I think is the other side of it. I think people often miss out that you can do the carrot as well. Yeah. So I think you culturally set up an environment where people are guided into a certain behavior. And, it's nice to give people praise and money and good things when they do good stuff, not just smack them around the head when they do bad stuff. So I think we need to do both. And part of the smacking them around the head thing is that we haven't got enough there currently to guide them. We have to do a big U-turn. We have to like, come on, no, seriously, over here. I think there's loads of work to be done in the IP situation. We don't really understand that at the moment, and how to deal with that. And I think that's going to be really interesting. And I haven't read much stuff on that, but I think that's a wealth of thinking there around what we're going to do with IP. But yeah, I think we just need to concentrate some of these larger corporations on actual solutions to actual problems and not selling us more stuff. Not selling us general stuff, but like we don't need more ads. We don't need to waste more times looking at phones, like this sort of stuff, basic stuff. we do need other stuff. And I feel like the message is well received by some people. So I don't know very well, but like DeepMind just seem to do good stuff, like in medicine, protein folding, the eye hospital stuff. They just seem to be going, well, we have this AI technology and we're going to use it for good stuff. Cool. Like, that's what we need more of. We just need everyone to go, cool, let's do more cool stuff. This is a really cool technology, and we might not be billionaires doing it, but we are literally changing the world for good. But that, again, the market's not set up for that. So I think we need to like legislate people away from that way of thinking where, like you pointed out, we could change the way corporations are set up in the first place to help. We could also smack down corporations when they're doing stupid things. We could do more for privacy. We could do more for transparency, so telling people when certain things are being used and have some sort of recourse for that. There's all this stuff which I think is good. And lots of people say, but it's anti-innovation. No, there's like loads of space for innovation. You're just not in thinking about the innovation outside of it makes tons of money like really quickly.
Yep.
And that's the problem because of, the capitalist situation. But yeah, I think there's loads of stuff we could do with technology, which is really exciting and interesting, and people need to get on board. Yeah. I don't know if that helps.
No, I think so. No, I think, I mean, sort of, actually 2 points. I mean, actually, I always make the argument that, I think if I'd made the argument when I spoke to you on your podcast that, if you actually ethical models actually create smarter models, because you effectively, again, from the point of view of designing algorithms, like you have to think about a lot of extra areas, like, in terms of social issues, cultural issues, and you have to basically program that in the AI, which takes a very long time. And it's a really hard thing to do, which is, again, I think this is where, the carrot side of it, like maybe governments should incentivize investors to invest in deep tech companies like DeepMind. Because a problem with investors, again, I speak from experience, what investors want is an exit. Like this is for them is the thing, like, they put money into your startup and they want an exit within the next 5 years. But then
it has to be 10x or whatever,
It has to be 10x or whatever. But 5 years is not enough. Like for deep tech, okay, for crappy apps or whatever, if you want to rush an AI model and just throw it out there and see what happens, you can do that in 5 years. But then, of course, that's when you start seeing the consequences that we just talked about. But if you actually want to build models or something like, AI that's, solves scientific challenges and stuff like that, these things take a long time to do. Well, in that case, investors will be like, well, but that means I'm not going to exit for 10 plus years. Well, I'm not
exactly. Yeah.
So maybe they need to be incentivized to actually invest in deep tech companies and deep tech startups. And basically not prioritize an exit opportunity, perhaps.
100%. And I think that is, if you're looking at the world market, I think that's competitive as well. Like if you're looking at longer time horizon with some of the stuff, like your country has prioritized certain things and they're better off for it. They're just going to be like generally the lowest level of welfare is going to be increased, right? Even if the top isn't like way up here, like America or China or whatever, but you're bringing that gap down. And I think that's what we should be really concentrating on. It's like, well, the well-being of generally everyone should be prioritized, so that we can carry on doing this stuff. Like if you prioritize these people at the top, and unless you believe in trickle down, which it's just a fallacy, right?
Nope.
We give up on trickle down, right? Trickle down.
Please give up on trickle down. It's
Unless you believe in that.
If you don't believe us, go and read about Liz Truss, our prime minister. Like you want trickle down economics? See what happens when you have trickle down economics. Yeah.
So apart from like that whole situation, you're prioritizing the people who already have wealth or are winning the wealth lottery, or are able to like magically produce wealth quickly, which is not the bulk of people. So then you have this, large band where everyone else is, and you want to just crush that band a bit, and it would be nice to do that globally, in my mind. And I've got a couple of ideas around that, but we might not have time for that either. I don't know.
I mean, is it similar to, because I think the Nordics seem to have figured this one out, especially Finland. I mean, Finland,
Yeah.
they're pretty much pushing, and I know this because I'm actually looking at potentially, you heard it here first, folks.
Wow. Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to, I'm looking at potentially actually setting up in Finland because they pretty much prioritize digital ethics, ethical AI. Even the government funded, I don't know if it's the current government or the previous government, but they've got, for example, a course that was designed by University of Helsinki that is designed for their population to understand and learn AI at a pretty high level, and it's free.
Yeah.
It's available for everybody, and I think it's even available for people who don't live in Finland. Like I'm sure the link is live.
Yeah.
So even in the UK or like wherever you are in the world, you have access to that course, and you can learn basics of AI in a way that makes sense. So they're like, because the people I was talking to there, they said that their philosophy is that, well, AI is the future whether you like it or not. So we might as well then make sure that our population understands AI, the good, the bad, and the ugly aspects of it, as I like to say, but also understand the opportunities, and then we fund them through something like UBI. I'm a big supporter of UBI, like FYI. But for something along the lines of UBI or some kind of support framework that ensures that people who choose to change their careers and say, you know what, actually I want to be involved in AI, perhaps as an engineer or data scientist or whatever. Well, I've got money available from the government that would allow me to improve myself and get qualifications and get a better job and so on. And this is, in fact, because one thing I hate, and I'm going to get a bit political here, but one thing I hate when I see politicians and people say, oh, people are being lazy when they have benefits, blah, blah, blah. Well, actually, Finland have shown, again, the data that I think it was during, like, when they had something similar to furlough, and they had an experiment. They found that the vast majority of people didn't just sit on their asses and did nothing. They actually used the money to either get new qualifications to basically, do online courses or something, go to university even, right? So that was like the majority. I think it was around like, say, 70 to 80% type majority. So it's a big majority that basically decided that, they want to, gain new qualifications and get better jobs. Yeah. And you know what the other ones did? Like, because I did see somewhere say, so that means like the 20% were just sitting on their asses. No, they set up their own companies. So basically, 70 to 80% basically improved their qualifications, and the rest became entrepreneurs. 0% people simply sat down and did nothing. And the key reason is that, like, when I asked them, how come you did that now? Why didn't you do that before? They said, well, firstly, I didn't have the money to do it, so I had to work like 2 or 3 jobs. So by the time I finish, I can't focus on studying, nor do I have a focus to set up a new business. I mean, and we're both work for each other, like for ourselves. I mean, and you know what it's like to set up your own company. You can't do part-time jobs. You have to focus on the business. So the fact that they didn't have any financial security behind them, they just couldn't do these things. So obviously, Finland figured this one out. They said, well, actually, you know what? If we provide support, financial support, it's an investment. It's not money that we're throwing away. We're investing in our people so they can improve, set up new businesses, or get higher salaries. Of course, the taxation of that, okay, it's a high tax country, but, so what? Right? That money comes back to the state. They invest in their transportation, which is one of the best in the world. They've got the best education system in the world, literally, with zero private education. And we've got a weird debate here in this country about that. I mean, I'm like, so it works. And it's not socialism. Last time I checked, Finland is not a socialist state or a communist state, is it?
Well, I mean, they still participate in the markets. I think, but I mean, the only caveat to that is there's very few people in Finland overall compared to some other countries.
True.
But I don't think that I can, get in the way of that. I think what some of the Nordic countries in Finland are doing are incredibly insightful legislative experiments, and I think we all need to, like, the whole world needs to learn from that. And obviously, we have different geographies and situations, but I think, and they've obviously got like offshore oil and stuff like this, but I think we just need to go, cool, like, this experiment was interesting. And I think that precarity probably increases people's stress and probably sends people to the NHS more. And probably, we can sort all there's a lot of things which are preventative measures and our well-being measures that we can just do. We keep, like in the UK, not in the UK, in the UK, just in the UK. There's lots of talk about funding the NHS and funding school system, like you pointed out, and I think, God, we just need to do a better job of those things and realize that a lot of people are not in work or go to the hospital because of things which are life related, and we actually can do things about those things, like UBI or like better social care, or there's loads of stuff that we can do which in some countries don't exist or are done poorly, like in the US, whatever, where you have this massive gap. And I couldn't actually believe how you'd live there and not be stressed all the time. But
you have to be super rich.
Well, exactly. You have to be rich to be in the States, or rich enough anyway. If you fall ill, then it's a big problem, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in the UK, it's maybe slow, but it's a problem of service and speed rather than a problem of precarity, which is so there's a different stress. You don't spend all your life thinking about it. So I think there's things that we can do there. Yeah, but I think coming back to the very first thing you said about educating people about AI stuff, like I don't know why we don't just wholesale have our own one of those things that has just slightly changed for the UK public. Like,
I mean, we've got some of the best universities in the world. Yeah. Why can't Oxford or Cambridge do it? I mean, it's like,
yeah, come on, guys. I mean,
well, actually, Oxford are doing a course that you pay for. You have to pay for Oxford, which is like
yes, yeah. So that course is great. I think it's Elements of AI or something like that.
I can't remember, but I will put it in the description below, so everybody can access it. Yeah. It's free. I mean, that's the beauty of it. Yeah. I don't think you even have to register. Just literally go there and just jump on it.
Yeah, I think I've used it for reference a couple of times actually. So
yeah. Good. Where do you think we're going to go from here? Because obviously there's a lot of silly talk about AGI, which I'm not a big supporter of as the idea, because it's not new again. And of course, like the regulation, and people talk a lot about ethics, but again, I'm personally seeing far too much talk, no action. Yeah. What do you see the future is like? So the next 12 to 18 months, what is the future? Where are we going with AI?
Yeah. So my earlier prediction about how we use computers, I think, will probably be a couple of years off. So maybe 2027, 8, and that sort of thing. In the next couple of years, I think we're just going to get all these legislative pressures, and I think that's going to be really interesting how that shakes out. Because if the EU thing gets the AI law, EU law, gets put into place and is good and works, then I think that's going to shake up things a little bit. Because obviously the EU is quite a big, portion, and if the UK will have to do something, and there's all these countries which will learn off that process and see if they can replicate it in slightly different ways. But hopefully, like they did with GDPR, with the EU law. So I think things could change quite a bit. I'm hoping the large players hit a plateau really soon. On a technical level, I feel like it feels like diminishing returns with just more data, more compute. It, again, like intuitively, it feels like there must be a cul-de-sac at some point. And then we'll have to think about the next thing. And I'm hoping when we think about the next thing, we think about actually what do we want, and do we want these massive computer farms taking all the electricity that we've produced with fossil fuels or solar farms, whatever, and actually do something about that environmental thing as well at the same time. Again, I'd rather people do that faster than they are, but
they're actually building more farms actually.
Yeah, I think the data thing isn't going away, but I think again we can legislate away some of the issues with it. Like if you're making a data farm, you can't use national infrastructure Like, you know what I mean? It's like, well, you're doing this thing. We haven't asked you to do it. So make your own power. Go for it. Like, and it has to be solar or wind, or it has to be renewables.
Yeah.
Like that would increase the immediate interest in that energy in renewables. Some legislation like that. Because like I don't want any more data farms. I don't think people who are on the dole need any more data farms. I don't think people in sub-Saharan Africa need. You know what I mean? It's just like this kind of trite point of view, probably, but they are doing this to us, and I'd rather them look at us and go, "Cool, we need better welfare and things that we like doing instead of all these things." And I'm sure they have an argument against that as well, but I'm here not as part of one of those organizations, so that's my perspective.
It's an opinion, but well, I think quite a few people believe in that. I mean, actually, I think it's I think those of us who are outside that corporate world, I don't know. Obviously, maybe I am hoping because the way Apple, again, the way they presented everything that they've done seems to suggest that they're moving in that direction. Like, it's really about AI that effectively serves us. So it's not about we have this super intelligence that we just talk to. No, it's about like I said, it's how do we enhance our experience with their products, and we rely on their products quite a lot for all sorts of different things, right? But also they want to they always talked about that they focus on renewables. They focus when they build new data centers, etc. It's always they try to make it as environmentally friendly as possible. I know it's all PR stuff. But they
could make their machines more fixable. That would be
that would be nice as well. But it's more interesting because I know Steve Wozniak. I saw just a clip, sort of as the final thing here. Like, I saw a clip of him saying that yes, Apple is a corporation, but if you compare them to all of the other corporations, they seem to be as the better guys, not necessarily the good guys, but the better guys. They seem to be kind of moving in the direction where, I mean, they're the ones that are pushing for privacy more than the others. Right. To be fair, and in the end, pretty much the first thing they said in the event was they jumped straight onto privacy. Like, they didn't talk about any of the features, and I thought that's good. So, and the fact that they want on-device AI, that everything stays on your device, etc. So they're saying the right things, which is a good thing, I suppose.
My prophecy, okay, for the next 3 years is that message changes because their business changes, because of the things they're putting into place. So I'm interested to see how different it is in 2 years' time about that message. Because right now, they make their money out of mostly that hardware bit and software bit. And also they could take less money off their apps. That would be great. The App Store
well, they're not charging for the AI, apparently. So they say.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So, if it's the classic thing, if you're not paying, then you are the product. Is that the phrase?
Pretty much, yes. You are if it's free, you are the product.
Yeah, exactly. So, I wonder how that changes over time. But hopefully it won't.
Hopefully, like I said, we'll see. So far, the PR is lovely, the marketing is lovely, but the reality, remains to be seen. So
exactly.
Cool. Well, on that note, Ben, always a pleasure. We have to do this again. I think we could carry on talking about all these issues for another several days, not just several hours. But no, thank you so much, man.
Been a pleasure, Tim. Thanks very much. And if people want to find out more, then go to the Machine Ethics podcast and just find me on Twitter and Instagram, all sorts of things. Just Ben Byford.
Cool. And all the links for everybody, all the links will be in the descriptions. And please check out Ben's podcast. It's really, really good. It's very educational. If you really want to understand anything to do with ethics, you go to that podcast. That's what I rely on.
Nice.
So.
Thanks.
Cool.
That's big praise. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Ben. See you soon.
Well, my friends, this is it. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, before I go away, if you are on YouTube, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button below. It really makes a massive difference for the growth of our channel. And if you're following us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you need to give us a star review. Apparently, your following means nothing unless you give us a star review. Don't ask me why, but give us whatever star review that you think is fair. And if you're not following us, what are you doing? Come on, man. It doesn't cost you anything. It really makes a big difference. I really, really appreciate your support. But also, if you've got cash to spare, consider to become a founding member. We are an independent medium. We're not reliant on any kind of company that gets money from Russian oligarchs or any kind of weird sponsorships or anything like that. All of the companies that work with us are genuine companies that I know and I like. But ultimately, it's the members, you guys, our subscribers, our followers, our founding members, or those of you who actually just donated us like $1 here, a couple of bucks there, $5 there. All of that makes a big difference. This is what makes us truly independent. We're not chasing clickbait because we don't want clickbait. We want facts. We want the truth. We want something that we can all aspire to and something that truly make us at least work harder to make the world a better place. Not just talk about it, but actually make it happen. And of course, it supports all of our campaigns as well. So my friends, thank you so much. Much love. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
You are listening to CEOR.